Hey biology, welcome back. Today we're talking about photosynthesis, and if you think back to our prefixes and our root words, we have photo, which means light, and we have synthesis, which means to create. So photosynthesis is the process plants use to create food energy from light energy. And sunlight, so the basic equation for photosynthesis is sunlight plus plants equals food. Sunlight has in it lots of different wavelengths of energy, and the kind that we're most familiar with is the colors of light. So the Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Plants use all of those colors for photosynthesis, except for the green. The reason it doesn't use green is because green is the color that's reflected back to our eyes. Leaves look green. The place where photosynthesis takes place is green, that chloroplast is green, and so that light is reflected back to us, and that is not being used during photosynthesis, but all the other colors are. Okay, so we talked about the basic formula for photosynthesis. Now let's talk about the specific formula for photosynthesis, and that is 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O with light yields C6 H12O6 plus 6 O2. And what that means in word form is carbon dioxide gas plus water and sunlight yield glucose plus oxygen gas. And so that formula shows us the reactants, what we need to start. We need carbon dioxide, water, and light. And what we end up on after photosynthesis is finished is glucose and oxygen gas. So when we were talking about the carbon cycle and our biomes, photosynthesis played a huge role because plants take out carbon from the atmosphere and release oxygen back in. Okay, so where does all this take place? We have a leaf. The leaf is green most of the time. That's because of the pigments inside their cells, inside the chloroplast, that are absorbing light. And those, let's get to where those are. So we have the leaf. Inside a leaf you have a plant cell, and these green structures right here are the chloroplast. And this is an in-depth close-up look at what the chloroplast looks like. So we have three main structures within a chloroplast. We have the stroma, which is the empty space. Then we have these round discs. The round discs are called thylakoids, and the thylakoids are stacked up on top of each other, and together they're called a granum for one stack, but all of the stacks together are called grana. So that's the plural form of granum. So this is what a chloroplast looks like. A chloroplast is a double-walled membrane organelle inside a plant cell, which is found inside a leaf, attached to a tree. Okay, so what's really happening in photosynthesis? I have to remember that photosynthesis is an extremely complex biochemical process. We're not going to go into all the detailed steps of it. When you take biology in college, or you become the next famous biochemist, you're going to need to know these steps. Right now, you're not going to need to know the individual steps, just what's happening during each stage. So we have two main stages. We have the light-dependent reactions, like their name implies. They are dependent on light, so it happens only during the daytime when there is light available. If you have a cloudy day, or you have a biome located in a part of the world where there is not much sunlight, then these light-dependent reactions are going to slow way down. They generally don't stop altogether because there's a little bit of residual energy stored up, but they do slow down. So the light reactions are changing light energy into cell energy, and our cell energy is called ATP, which we've talked about before. That's the process, the molecule that runs all the processes in our bodies and every organism's body. The light reactions only occur in the grana, so in those stacks of thylakoids. That's where all the light-dependent reactions are taking place. The second step of photosynthesis is the light-independent reactions. Those are called the Calvin cycle, It occurs in the stroma, in the empty space in between the grana. And they're happening continuously because they do not require light. They happen all the time. So it can happen during the day, it can happen at night, as long as you have the products that you need to get, or the reactants that you need to get started, then you can run the Calvin cycle or the light independent reactions. So what's happening in the light independent reactions is ATP that we made up here in the light reactions is being used to change carbon dioxide into glucose. And then we have the end of photosynthesis. Okay, so what are some of the factors that affects how quickly or how slowly photosynthesis takes place? In order to talk about that, we need to go back and think about our formula, our C6, our carbon dioxide plus water gives glucose plus oxygen, and we need to think about what we need in order for photosynthesis to take place. We need water, and so without water, we can't run the light reactions. And when we can't run the light reactions, we can't get the Calvin cycle to run because we haven't made any energy. So without water, the rate of photosynthesis really drops. So plants that live in dry places have compensated for that by creating a waxy cuticle on the leaf. That waxy cuticle helps hold in any moisture that the plant has and helps run the rate of photosynthesis for a lot longer. So think about plants that live in the desert biome or the savanna biome, even some of the grasslands, that those plants, if you look at their leaves, they have a thick waxy cuticle, and that helps hold in any water that they obtain because water is scarce and it's required for photosynthesis, so they want to hang on to that. On the underside of the leaf, there are also openings called stomata. Those stomata open and close and let different amounts of water in or out, carbon dioxide in or out, and so that can also play a role in holding in water. The stoma stay closed, and when they stay closed, they hold in more water. The other thing is the temperature, that when plants get too hot, the process of photosynthesis slows down, and that's because photosynthesis is run by proteins. Those proteins are called enzymes, those specific ones, and without the enzymes, the light-independent reactions and the light-dependent reactions can't occur. They slow down. So generally between 0 degrees C and 35 degrees C, which is 32 degrees C, or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, the enzymes run at optimal rates. So photosynthesis occurs at really good rates. When you go above 35 degrees Celsius, the enzymes get too hot and they denature, they fall apart and they break down, and photosynthesis stops. And so you again see plants protecting themselves when they live in hot biomes, places where the temperature gets too hot. They either have very small leaves or they have leaves that have adapted in some way to account for the hot temperatures to make sure that they can still run photosynthesis effectively without killing the enzymes that are inside their chloroplasts. And then the third factor is intensity of light. Light is the way that the plant cell makes the cellular energy to convert carbon dioxide into glucose. So without light, none of this is going to happen. However, the old saying, if some is good, more is better, does not apply for photosynthesis. That when you have too much light, the plant can't keep up. There's only a certain amount of glucose that can be made. The enzymes can't run any faster than a certain number, and so once you get to that certain number, you're not going to get any higher than that, no matter how much light you add, how many hours of light you give the plant. You're not going to get any more photosynthesis occurring. So too much or too little, the plant does not run photosynthesis effectively because there's a maximum rate that the plant can operate photosynthesis. Thanks, biology. Have a great day.